My son is a failure. My father snapped at our 4th of July dinner. He'll never influence anything that matters. A year later, his most powerful investor paused, gripped my hand, and said, Director Cross, I didn't know you'd be here. My name is Daniel Cross. I'm 33 years old, and I live in Arlington, Virginia. Most people around here know me as the other Cross son, which pretty much tells you everything you need to know. The 4th of July has always been a big deal in our family. My father, Senator Gerald Cross, hosts a private dinner at the family estate every year. No media, just immediate family and a few trusted staffers. It's supposed to be low-key, at least by political dynasty standards. But that night, I guess I forgot my place. The evening had started off fine, if strained. The grill was going, the wine was flowing, and Miles, my older brother, was soaking up the spotlight as usual. He had just been appointed to some junior role in the Department of Commerce. A ceremonial title, basically. But you'd think he'd been tapped for a cabinet position by the way my father fawned over him. To Miles, my father announced, raising his glass with theatrical pride, who continues to uphold the family legacy with dignity and ambition. Everyone clapped. My mother beamed. I smiled politely and sipped my drink. Later, when the conversation turned to education policy, I figured it was a good time to mention something I was actually proud of. We've been running a few pilot programs at Horizon Forum, I said. It's a small nonprofit, but we're seeing real results with civic tech in underfunded school districts. My father didn't even look at me. He waved his hand like he was swatting away a gnat. Daniel, please, he said, loud enough to silence the clink of cutlery. Let's not pretend tinkering with apps is the same as governing. A few people chuckled. My stomach twisted. I'm just saying we've built something. You've built a hobby, he said sharply. Don't dress it up like it matters. You'll never amount to anything outside this family's name. That was it. No raised voice. No profanity. Just 10 words, surgically precise, designed to gut me in front of everyone. Miles smirked into his wine glass. My mother reached across the table and gave my arm a gentle pat, like that was supposed to fix it. Gerald, she said weakly, Daniel's just trying to contribute. My father ignored her. He turned to Miles and launched into a story about his own early days in office, clearly reliving his glory through my brother's fledgling role. I stared down at my plate, cheeks burning, every muscle in my jaw tense. My throat felt tight, but I wouldn't let him see me flinch. That moment, right there at the table, something snapped. A quiet shift. Not rage. Not defiance. Just a deep, unshakable clarity. There would never be room for me at that table. Not truly. Not unless I surrendered everything that made me me. I looked at my mother's hand resting gently on mine, soft, perfunctory, and meaningless. Then at Miles, basking in borrowed power. Then at my father, already rewriting the narrative of his perfect political bloodline. And I knew, whatever I became, whatever I built, it would never be enough for them. But it might be enough for me. And that was the last time I ever brought up Horizon Forum at a family dinner. I didn't say much on the drive back to my apartment. My mother had kissed my cheek goodbye like nothing had happened, as if the evening hadn't ended with me being carved up in front of the whole family like a side dish. Miles gave me a patronizing shoulder clap. My father didn't even glance in my direction. When I got home, I stood in the kitchen for a while, just staring at the ceiling. The air conditioning buzzed softly. I thought about pouring a drink, then didn't. I just walked to the window and watched the city skyline flicker in the distance. That was the last 4th of July I spent with my family. After that, I threw myself into work, not out of inspiration, but survival. Horizon Forum wasn't glamorous. It was 3 underpaid idealists working out of a shared co-working space that still had ceiling stains and flickering lights. But it was mine. It was real. Priya, my co-director, never asked about my family. She knew enough. I think she saw the exhaustion behind my eyes and understood not to prod. Instead, we just kept going. I started sleeping at the office more than I slept at home. Poured every bit of myself into refining the AI tool we'd been building, one that could take confusing policy language and translate it into plain English for students and first-time voters. We wanted to build something that could cut through the noise and teach people how government actually worked. I remember one night, I was writing code with one hand and eating cold noodles with the other when it all came flooding back, not just the dinner, but everything before it. Like the time I tried to modernize my father's re-election website. I designed a sleek, mobile-friendly platform, optimized for outreach and voter accessibility. He looked it over for 5 seconds before dismissing it. You're not a professional, he'd said. Stick to your pet projects. Or the robotics competition I missed my senior year because he wanted me canvassing in Norfolk for a midterm race he barely cared about. You want to be part of this family? He'd asked. Then act like it matters. I did. And a week later, he told a room full of donors that Miles had been the one coordinating grassroots outreach. Then there was the time I quietly hired a PR firm to cover up Miles's social media scandal, some leaked photos, a couple of crude posts from college. The story vanished in less than 48 hours. I never even got a thank you. But that night, watching fireworks burst silently through my window, I felt something different. Not sadness. Not even anger. Resolve. I pressed my forehead to the glass, watching the sparks fade into nothing. Never again, I whispered. Not another dollar. Not another excuse. Not another desperate reach for their approval. I was done. Whatever I built from this point forward would be mine, not the cross legacy, not the family name, not some second-hand spotlight borrowed from Miles or my father's resume. If they wouldn't see me, fine. I'd build something they couldn't ignore. Horizon Forum didn't look like much from the outside. It shared a crumbling strip of brick real estate between a shuttered payday loan office and a Caribbean takeout joint that somehow always smelled like burnt sugar and fryer oil. The sign on the door was peeling, the AC rattled, and half the ceiling tiles were water-stained. But inside that space, something real was happening. Priya and I had pushed every penny we had into the place. Most days, it was just the two of us and maybe a volunteer intern from the local college, working off free coffee and passion. Our server was an old refurbished tower PC shoved under a desk, and our whiteboard was a window we wrote on with dry erase markers. But we had something, an idea. Civic literacy in America was a mess. No one read legislation. No one trusted what they saw online. We were building a system, machine learning mixed with verified policy data, that could break down complex laws and public policies into bite-sized, understandable language. No spin. No party lines. Just the truth, simplified. We started by testing it with a handful of teachers in Arlington and Richmond. Then some school board reps caught wind of it. Then a local station did a 2-minute story on our mission. That's when the emails started trickling in. How do I bring this to my classroom? My students think government is magic. Can this help? My son thought gerrymandering was a Pokemon until yesterday. Please send the link. It was slow, but it was working. Meanwhile, I ignored my mother's calls. She'd leave vague voicemails like, "Your father's under a lot of pressure lately," or "Just wanted to see how you're doing, sweetie. We're all so proud of you." Proud of what, exactly? They didn't know a damn thing about what I was doing. They hadn't asked. Still, her voice always carried the same rehearsed warmth she used at fundraisers. Like I was just another donor to charm. I didn't respond. One afternoon, as I sat cross-legged on the floor scanning data from a new test district, Priya looked over from her laptop and said, "You ever think about scaling this thing?" I blinked. Scaling? Yeah, like really scaling. State contracts. Federal partnerships. Actual institutional reach. I let the thought sit. Horizon Forum had been a shelter. A way to heal. But maybe, it could be more. That night, as I walked back to my apartment past a row of government buildings, I paused in front of the state education office. The lights were off inside. But I pictured Horizon Forum's dashboard glowing on every desktop. I thought about the policies my father ignored. The communities he dismissed as not worth the political risk. The people his campaigns reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. And I realized something. I didn't need to run for office to shape the future. I just needed to make truth louder than legacy. And this was the start. It started with a forwarded link from Priya. She was standing at the coffee machine in our cramped kitchen, scrolling her phone with a frown. "Hey," she said, holding up the screen. "You seen this?" It was a local politics blog. Niche, but credible. The headline read, "Senator Cross struggles to hold major donors amid re-election shakeups." I clicked through. The article was vague on sources, but clear in tone. Longtime backers were pulling out. Committee funds were being quietly reallocated. Staff turnover was accelerating. There was even a line about concerns over family involvement and fiscal mismanagement. I leaned back in my chair. A laugh almost escaped, but it didn't feel right. "I thought he was bulletproof," Priya said. "He thinks so too," I muttered. A few days later, I got a call from Aunt Lorraine. She used to run media ops during my father's early campaigns, back before Miles was even old enough to hold a sign. She didn't bother with small talk. "It's all going sideways, Daniel," she said. "Gerald's people are panicking. Miles made a mess trying to launch that vanity consultancy. Dumped a chunk of family money into a half-baked think tank, and now they're bleeding donors." "What kind of mess?" I asked carefully. "Overpromised results. Bad contracts. Unhappy backers. It's all rumor mill right now, but it's getting loud. You didn't hear it from me." I sat there after we hung up, staring at the wall. Miles had always been the golden boy. Slick, polished, compliant. But he was never a builder. He played legacy politics like a kid wearing his father's suit, mimicking power but never generating it. The cracks were showing, and the timing couldn't have been more poetic. That week, I got an email from someone I hadn't spoken to since grad school. Felix Lane, media strategist, founder of Civic Wire. One of those rare people who could hold a room with silence and turn a press briefing into a movement. He'd been following Horizon Forum for months, apparently. Called our work precisely what the public sphere needs right now. He wanted to talk partnership. We met at a cafe near Union Market, and he didn't waste time. I think what you're building could be massive, he said. Educational reform, voter engagement, curriculum licensing, this could reshape how we think about democracy. I sipped my coffee, careful to stay grounded. We're still small. He smiled. So was Wikipedia once. That night, walking home, I couldn't stop thinking about it, not the collapse, but the opportunity. For years, I believed influence was something inherited, something locked behind gates my father built. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe power wasn't handed down. Maybe it was taken quietly, methodically, with truth and tools and time. The cross name was cracking, and in the silence that followed, I could hear my own voice rising. The call came on a Thursday morning, around 9 a.m., just as I was settling into the office. My phone buzzed with a name I hadn't seen in weeks, Mom. I let it ring out. 30 seconds later, it buzzed again. This time, a voicemail. I stared at the phone for a few minutes before finally pressing play. Hi, sweetheart. Your father's gala is next month. It's his 40th year in office, if you can believe it. We're putting together a family table. The press will be there, of course, and your brother's helping with the guest list. It would mean a lot if you came. Your father needs the family unified. For the public, you understand. I set the phone down slowly. Not we miss you. Not how are you. Just your father needs the optics to look clean. I didn't respond right away. I didn't need to. That night, I told Priya about the call. She didn't say much. Just raised an eyebrow and waited for my thoughts to settle. The next afternoon, I met Felix again, this time at his office. The place looked like a magazine spread, glass walls, indoor plants, smart boards in every room. He offered me an espresso and gestured toward a seat. You heard about the gala? He asked. I nodded. They want the full family image for the press photos. Tight-knit, patriotic, united front. Felix leaned back. You planning to go? I wasn't. You should, he said simply. I laughed, short and dry. Why? So I can sit in the corner while Miles does his little tap dance for the cameras. No, Felix said. So you can walk through the front door like a peer. I looked at him. He continued, we're prepping a national campaign with CivicWire's education arm. We want Horizon Forum at the table, maybe even leading it. The gala could be a signal, a formal debut, not just a protest appearance, a power move. I sat with that for a moment. Going wasn't about respect anymore. It wasn't about them at all. It was about stepping out of the shadows, not to reclaim my seat at their table, but to show I was building my own. That night, I called my mother back. I'll be there, I said. She sounded relieved. Oh, good. It'll mean a lot to your father. It won't mean anything to him, I said. But it will mean something to me. And that was enough. The gala was held at the Jefferson Grand, an old money ballroom in downtown D.C. with chandeliers the size of small cars and walls lined with oil portraits of former presidents. The air smelled like florals and formality. Everyone wore navy or black. Everyone smiled too much. I arrived alone, wearing a tailored charcoal suit Priya had practically forced me to buy. No vintage blazers, she'd warned. This isn't a startup mixer. The doorman greeted me by name, probably fed my photo by the event coordinator, and escorted me to the family table near the center of the room. My mother looked up with a tight-lipped smile. Daniel, good. You're here. Miles stood beside her, half turned toward the crowd, shaking hands like he'd already won something. Nice suit, he said without looking at me. Big upgrade. Evening, Miles, I said flatly. My father wasn't at the table. He was up front, giving an interview near the podium, flanked by staffers and photographers. I watched as he gestured confidently, still in campaign mode after 40 years. I sat down, hands folded in my lap. The conversation swirled around me, but I didn't join in. Every so often, someone passed by with a forced smile or a vague compliment. Oh, Daniel, right? You do nonprofit work or something? My mother kept gently correcting people. Daniel's taking some time to explore new ventures, she said, like I was in between internships. I stayed quiet. Eventually, my father made his entrance. The room hushed slightly as he stepped up to the microphone. Thank you all for coming, he said. Tonight, we celebrate not just a career in public service, but a legacy of leadership. And I'm proud to say my son Miles is continuing that tradition. I stopped listening. The words were expected. The applause was automatic. But then the energy shifted. Near the entrance, I saw a ripple move through the crowd, heads turning, voices lowering. Felix Lane had arrived. He walked in like he owned the place, sharp suit, unbothered, a few younger staffers trailing behind him with iPads and portfolios. He scanned the room quickly, spotted me, and smiled. Daniel Cross, he said loudly as he made his way over. The man of the hour. Every head turned. Cameras followed him. He stopped in front of me and extended his hand. I stood, and we shook firmly. I've been telling everyone, Felix said, voice clear and deliberate. This guy is the future of democratic innovation. What he's building at Horizon is going to change everything. Flashbulbs went off. Murmurs spread across the room. My father, still at the podium, paused mid-sentence. His smile twitched. Miles looked like someone had unplugged his confidence. I felt the warmth of Felix's presence, but I wasn't leaning on it. I was meeting him there, eye to eye. The press swarmed, snapping photos. Felix motioned for me to walk with him toward a media group near the center aisle. As I passed my father, he turned and looked at me. Not with anger. Not with disdain. With confusion. Like the ground had just shifted, and he couldn't find his footing. And for the first time in my life, I didn't flinch. I just walked forward. I didn't expect him to confront me in the middle of the ballroom, but I should have. That's always been my father's way: control the moment, reclaim the spotlight, and never let a narrative slip out of his grip. Daniel, he said, cutting through the crowd like a storm in a suit. A word. Felix gave me a look, calm, measured, and stepped back. The photographers sensed the tension and drifted toward other targets. The room buzzed with music again, but I knew people were still watching from behind their champagne flutes. I followed my father to a side hallway near the service entrance, the buzz of the gala muffled by thick drapes. He turned on me the second we were alone. What the hell was that? He snapped. Felix Lane? Praising you. I didn't blink. You'll want to get used to it. He scoffed. He's not here for you. He's here to make a statement. You're being used, Daniel. You think he gives a damn about some toy nonprofit? I smiled. Funny. He just signed a strategic partnership with Horizon Forum this morning. We'll be working together on a national civic education initiative. His eyes narrowed. You did this to embarrass me. No, I said calmly. I did it to make an impact. Something you never let me do while standing behind your name. He stepped closer. Don't be naive. You're out of your depth. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small folded sheet, a press release, printed and ready. I handed it to him. We're also acquiring Miles's firm, I said. We've been in talks for weeks. His hand shook slightly as he unfolded the page. What the hell are you talking about? His consultancy's collapsing. Investors are pulling out. We offered to absorb it, rebrand it under Horizon Civic Engagement Division. It'll be a soft landing. For him, anyway. His voice rose. You're gutting your own brother's future. He gutted it himself, I snapped. We're just cleaning up the mess. And using it to do something meaningful. He stared at me, stunned. You're a traitor, he hissed. To your family. To everything I built. I didn't flinch. No. I'm finally honoring what you only ever pretended to value, public service that actually serves. A voice cut through the hallway before he could respond. That's enough, Gerald. We both turned. It was Judge Marion Holloway. Retired, respected, and still one of the most influential voices in Capitol Hill's legal circles. She'd been a friend of the family once, back before my father decided she'd gone too soft on criminal reform. She walked over slowly, gaze firm. I watched your speech, she said. All legacy, no future. Then I watched your son walk in and command a room you barely held together. Maybe it's time someone told you the truth. My father's face paled. She looked at me, then back at him. He's doing what you should have done 10 years ago, bringing your values into the present. Adapting. Leading. The senator didn't respond. He didn't have to. The silence said everything. We returned to the ballroom separately. Inside, people were whispering. The photographers had caught something, a moment between me and Felix, maybe, or a shot of my father scowling near the curtains. I didn't stay long. As I moved toward the exit, someone called after me, Miles, maybe. I didn't stop. I didn't need to. By the time I stepped outside into the cool night air, I felt lighter than I had in years. I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I was walking my own path, and they could either follow or get out of the way. The next morning, my phone lit up like a Christmas tree. Voicemail from my father, furious, ranting, barely coherent. You think this is over? You think some cameras and a handshake make you legitimate? You'll regret this, Daniel. Then my mother, trying a different angle, guilt disguised as concern. Sweetheart, your father's heart can't take the stress. You've embarrassed him. You've divided the family. Please, let's fix this before it gets worse. She even used the old endearment, sweetheart, like that word still had weight. I didn't reply to either. Instead, I forwarded everything to my lawyer. Attached a short note. Please handle all communication moving forward. He responded with a thumbs-up emoji and a file template for a no-contact boundary letter, should it come to that. By Monday, Horizon Forum's acquisition of Miles's consultancy was finalized. A polite press release went out, stating we were integrating existing infrastructure to expand civic engagement initiatives nationwide. The language was clean, professional, strategic. Behind the scenes, it was a mess. Miles's books were a disaster. We found falsified invoices, overlapping vendor contracts, even personal expenses billed as educational research. My internal audit team flagged embezzlement within 72 hours. Nothing criminal yet, but enough to expose how hollow the entire operation had been. We gave him two options: walk away quietly and let Horizon absorb the damage, or go public and take the full brunt of the collapse. He chose the former. Of course he did. Meanwhile, Senator Cross, the once unshakable symbol of conservative stability, was now dodging headlines and pulling out of events due to personal health. His press secretary released a statement announcing a transitional phase and confirmed he would not be seeking re-election next term. He was handed a ceremonial title on an advisory board he used to run. A face-saving gesture. A slow fade into irrelevance. And I didn't feel triumphant. Just clear. I wasn't looking to ruin anyone. I didn't want revenge. I wanted the truth to stand taller than spin for once. But what surprised me most was how quiet it felt after. No big speech. No parade. Just focus. Horizon Forum doubled its reach in 3 months. We expanded into 3 new states, launched a partnership with CivicWire's platform, and got invitations to brief congressional committees on tech-enhanced civics. And the family? Blocked. Legally and emotionally. I didn't scroll their social media. I didn't read the local gossip. I let the legal team handle it all: asset reviews, account separations, even future trust negotiations. The last message I ever sent to any of them was the one to my lawyer. Make sure they understand this isn't temporary. This is the new normal. I had spent most of my life hoping for scraps of validation from a table that was never meant for me. Now, I was building the table. And I was very careful about who got a seat. It was a rainy Tuesday when she showed up. I had just finished a call with a district superintendent in Michigan when Priya buzzed me from the front. Daniel, she said slowly. Your mom is here. Unannounced. I froze for a second, staring at the phone. Send her to the small conference room. I'll be there in 5. She was sitting stiffly when I walked in, hands folded tight in her lap, like she was preparing for a confession. She wasn't wearing makeup. No pearls, no campaign blazer. Just a plain sweater and jeans. I barely recognized her like that. She looked up when I entered, then quickly looked down again. Thanks for seeing me, she said quietly. I sat across from her but said nothing. She took a breath. I wanted to say I'm sorry. Still, I said nothing. She fumbled with the strap of her purse, her fingers shaky. Not just for the gala. Not just for that dinner years ago. For all of it. For letting your father speak to you the way he did. For not stepping in. For pretending everything was fine. I watched her carefully, waiting to see if there was a pivot, but something to shift blame. It didn't come. You were always different, she said. And I didn't know how to protect you from that house. So I just let it happen. Smiled through it. And I shouldn't have. I looked down at the table between us. The wood was scratched from years of interns dragging chairs across it. She reached into her purse and pulled out an old photo. It was from my high school robotics tournament, the one I missed to canvas for my father. I didn't even know anyone had taken a picture. I was sitting alone on the bleachers in my team jacket, a half-eaten sandwich on my lap. I found this in a box in the attic, she said. I don't know why I kept it. But I looked at it last week and realized, you've been alone in this family for a long time. My throat tightened. She stood, eyes glistening. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I see it now. I see you. I nodded once. That was all I could manage. She walked to the door, then paused. I'm proud of you, Daniel. Truly. Even if it's too late. Then she left. I sat there for a while, the photo still on the table. My chest ached, not with anger, not anymore. Just sadness. But not guilt. I had spent years longing for moments like that. Now, I knew the cost. And I wasn't willing to pay it again. 3 months later, I found myself standing in the middle of a school gym in Prince George's County, watching a dozen 7th graders huddle around a tablet. They were using Horizon's new civic engagement app, the pilot program we'd built from scratch, playing a simulation where they had to pass a city ordinance, navigate budget debates, and field questions from virtual constituents. The kids were shouting over each other, laughing, negotiating in real time. I motioned to allocate funds for the skate park, one of them yelled. Another rolled her eyes. We don't even have clean water in this scenario. We're building that first. I smiled. It was chaos. But it was the kind of chaos that meant something was working. Priya stood beside me, arms crossed, her expression unreadable, but I could tell she was proud. We're living 6 districts now, she said. Requests are coming in weekly. Chicago, Phoenix, even Tallahassee. I nodded, then turned my eyes toward the far wall, where a banner read, Civic leadership starts here. It used to be something my father said on the campaign trail. Now it was painted in a gym that had just adopted Horizon's full curriculum. Later that week, Priya read me an op-ed from the Washington Standard. She stood in the doorway of my office, holding her tablet like a prize. Horizon Forum is reshaping democracy, not through ballots or backroom deals, but by educating the next generation in how systems work and why they matter, she quoted. And remarkably, doing it without holding a single elected office. I let the words sink in. No office. No campaign posters. No glad-handing donors at black tie fundraisers. Just work. Real, tangible work that made things better. I looked out my window. Across the street, scaffolding wrapped around an old municipal building, a space we'd lobbied to convert into a civic tech center. It was our next flagship site. The bones of the building were still visible, but the future was already there, framed in steel and possibility. And for the first time in years, I exhaled deeply. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't about showing anyone up, not anymore. This was revolution. Quiet. Steady. Built brick by brick. I thought about my father, somewhere in a lake house now, probably still reading the papers through a lens of disbelief. I thought about Miles, now a footnote in press releases about restructuring. I even thought about my mother, who hadn't called again, but who had left the photo in a frame on my office desk, without a note. Then I looked around the office, the real one, and smiled. This was my legacy. Not the name. Not the party. The change. The shift. And for once, it didn't matter who gave me permission. I had already built the proof.